Hello, Longhorn fans, and welcome in to a special edition of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. It is our annual 2026 March Madness Bracket Breakdown. The best month of the year is here, and March Madness is here. It is Monday, March 16th, 7:49 p.m. Central Time here in Austin, Texas. We have the bracket, ladies and gentlemen. The Madness is here. It's the best sporting event of all, in my opinion. The culmination of a 5-month marathon of college basketball culminates in this great tournament. 68-team bracket. We're going to be taking you through it here on today's episode. We're going to go region by region and break down each region with upset picks, biggest threats to the top seed in each region, players to watch, matchups to watch, and our final 4 picks from each region. Before we get to that, though, we are going to break down your Texas Longhorns. If you're into Texas basketball, it's been an up and down for a season under Sean Miller. They will take on the NC State Wolfpack tomorrow, Tuesday, March 17th at 8:10 p.m. Central Time in a first 4 play-in game in Dayton. That's between 2 11 seeds. These teams, if you remember, met earlier this season in the Maui Invitational. Texas won that game 102-97. This is a rematch. We'll talk about what Texas needs to do to win that game and so forth. And then at the very end, we're going to have a little Jonah Williams conversation. What does this latest injury mean for the multi-sport star Jonah Williams and his future at Texas? And we'll obviously talk a little bit about the baseball team and where they sit as of today. If you like what we do here, make sure you like and subscribe and put in the comments, who do you have in your Final Four? Who's going to win it all this year? Will Florida go back-to-back? Will Arizona finally break through? Could they win their first national championship since the late 1970s? Will Duke and Cameron Boozer get it done? The top overall seed. Could there be a sneaky team like St. John's to take out Duke in the Sweet 16 and make a run, as they just won the Big East tournament for the second year in a row, and they're sizzling hot coming into this thing? Could Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies make it back? There are so many storylines all over the place. We'll touch on some of them here in a little bit, but we like the engagement. If you like and subscribe, it helps our algorithm. It helps us get recommended more on YouTube. And obviously, there are tons of people on YouTube right now looking for March Madness content. And so, you can fade all of our picks if you want. That's completely fine, but we love the engagement and it helps us. And it doesn't really sign you up for anything or doesn't really, affect you on your end if you do end up subscribing. So here today with me, I have my good friend and great co-host, Mr. Amy Nixon, who you are seeing on the channel. More episodes than not. He's here when he can be. That's all we need to disclose at this time. I'm really excited for this, Emmy. It's obviously one of my favorite times of the year. How excited are you for March Madness in this year's tournament?
I'm super excited, man. I think obviously the first weekend of March Madness, there's nothing like it. Jumping game to game, whether you're on the March Madness app or on a screen, or you got 3 screens or you got 5 screens, there's always a game on, and it's always, even the even the 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, like there's always some top seed that ends up in a close game or ends up sweating it out towards the end, even if they do pull it out. So March Madness, it's called Madness for a reason. I've said it a million times. There's nothing like it, man.
I think the way that we're going to do this, well, actually, let's just address the first 4 first, because it's the first 4. Sure, and it's what's going to happen first chronologically. I actually, funny enough, I made lower thirds for almost every segment except for this game. But we don't really need it for this game because you know what we're talking about. and it's down on the ticker. First 4 game tomorrow, 18 p.m. Central Time is about when it will tip off. If you're interested in watching, it'll be on, I'm assuming, like TBS or True TV, one of those 2 channels that you watch the tournament on every year. Your Texas Longhorns, the 11 seed, the third to last team in the bracket, will take on the NC State Wolfpack out of the ACC under first-year head coach Will Wade, who, if you remember, coached McNeese to a Sweet 16 appearance in last year's tournament. These 2 first-year coaches are matching up in what should be a really exciting back and forth offensive first 4 matchup in Dayton tomorrow. We're going to discuss what Texas needs to do to win this game and whether or not they need to win this game for the season overall to be considered a success after they had some real highs in SEC play, including what was a 5-game win streak in the middle of SEC play, to the real lows to finish the season where they lost at home to Oklahoma, who was the first team out of the field, unfortunately for the Sooners. Not really unfortunately, but we'll just say that to be kind. They lost to Ole Miss and Chris Beard, first round of the NCAA tournament, which made things a little interesting the last couple of days for the Longhorns, as they were really, really hoping for no bid stealers. Unfortunately, there weren't many bid stealers, so they were able to make it in. And I'd even contest that their win over NC State earlier this season probably was the final thing that really put them in when you were comparing them to some of these other bubble teams. I'll go ahead and ask you first. Number one, do you have any thoughts on this game and what Texas needs to do to win the game? That's the first question at hand. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know much about this NC State team, but I do know quite a bit about this Texas basketball team. And what I will say is that Texas needs to expect very aggressive ball pressure from every team they play here on out. What do we know about Texas? We know that our guards, Jordan Pope, and gosh, what's his name? Transfer from Arkansas,
Tremont Mark.
Yeah, our guards love to get to those mid-range jumpers. Love to work out of ISO and create off of dribble penetration. And these teams, every team that we play moving forward, even if we win this game, they're going to be pressuring full court, most likely, trying to cut off that faucet from their guards. And they're going to have a plan for Dalen Swain as well. So that's the question to me is like, will they be ready with a counter for that ball pressure? Because there are ways to counter, like to make them pay, but you got to be smart with the ball. You got to be super protective of the ball and really like work your way through the possession and take your time and just make the easy pass. And will Texas have the discipline to do that for 40 minutes? That's my question. And then beyond that, it's all of the typical March Madness things: shoot well, make free throws, rebound. All those things will play a factor. But the offensive rebounding in particular will be one to keep an eye on. That's the padlock stat for Texas, I think, is can they get enough second chance points to counteract this NC State offense? Because you're getting it's almost like a great running game in football. If you're getting offensive rebounds, you're keeping NC State's offense away from the ball. The more you're getting offensive rebounds, you're possessing the ball for more time, keeping NC State out of rhythm, not being able to possess the ball for possessions at a time. So that's a big factor.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. One of the reasons I think this is going to be a really high scoring game, like it was in the first matchup in Maui, is because neither of these teams are good on defense. Just flat out, both for different reasons. Like for Texas, they're not very disruptive on the perimeter. They don't have the best like ISO perimeter defenders. So if you have a really good guard, like we've seen, like with Arkansas or Florida or UConn, you can really do some damage against Texas. They're not very disruptive. They don't force a lot of turnovers, and they foul too much. That's one of the things that's driven Sean Miller crazy this year is how much this team fouls, especially late in the clock where you have a pretty good defensive possession and then you just, make a stupid foul or commit a stupid foul late in the clock, maybe on a 3 or something. Like that's been an issue. Discipline defensively has been an issue for the Longhorns all year long. And it's weird, it's ugly. It got better momentarily for a couple games during that win streak when they were facing, bottom half of the SEC caliber competition, when they had that 5-game win streak, beating LSU, beating some of these teams near the bottom of the league, Oklahoma, when they went on that 5-game win streak. But it's reared its ugly head again here recently in this latest 3-game losing streak going into the tournament. But for NC State, they're not good defensively either. Their defense has been brutal. Over the final 5 weeks of the regular season, the Wolfpack ranked 332nd. That's second to last in all Division I basketball in effective field goal percentage defense. And one of the reasons they're not very good defensively is because they allow, and you mentioned this for Texas, and this is why I find it interesting, they allowed the highest offensive rebound rate in all the ACC this year. So they can't get stops. They're not very big on the interior, and they give up a lot of offensive rebounds. They don't defensive rebound very well, which I think could be an advantage for Texas if they take advantage of it in this game. So what are the keys for Texas? It's just that. The most important player in this game for Texas, just like it was the first time around, is Matas Boukatitis. The biggest guy in the starting lineup for NC State is 6'8" forward Dan Allen Lubin, a transfer from North Carolina, who plays kind of like a small ball center for them. They're not very big on the interior, as I mentioned, which is one of the reasons they get pounded on the glass. Boukatitis, what does he need to do in this game to take advantage of that? First, he needs to avoid picking up early fouls and putting himself in foul trouble. That would not be very good for Texas. That's gotten them into big-time trouble in many games this year. And the guards need to do a good job of finding him and feeding him post touches in this game. Because I really think as a 7-footer, big-time, strong, 7-footer who we've seen improve throughout the season, finishing on the interior, he could have a real big game. But one of the problems has been, number one, the guards are very careless with the ball, and they have a hard time making those entry passes. Just sloppy basketball has been a problem for Texas on the offensive end. And number two, Boukatitis doesn't do very well with double teams. That's something he's going to have to get better at through the course of his development. So these guards need to do a good job of taking care of the ball, like you said, and feeding him post touches, getting him the ball. And once he gets the ball, he needs to keep the ball high, away from these smaller guards who might crash down and double team. And he needs to make quick decisions, which he hasn't been very good at. But we've seen him do it occasionally. He's shown flashes of it throughout this season. Boukatitis, if he has like a 20-point double-double, Texas wins this game. He's done it many times this season. But if he has one of those games where he's in early foul trouble and he has to sit most of the first half, that could be trouble for the Longhorns. So the 7-footer, I think, is the X factor here for Texas. But the good thing for the Horns is they match up pretty well on the inside. They rank top 45 in offensive and defensive rebound percentage. They've been a good rebounding team all season long. NC State has not. So I think Volkatitis, getting him paint touches, being disciplined, not turning the ball over, getting him the ball inside, him being able to make quick decisions and score the ball when he gets his opportunities down there. And obviously, just like, offensive and defensive rebounding and winning that battle, all will be keys for Texas to win this game. And then obviously, you need your best players to play well. It's March. So Dalen Swain, like he's done mostly all year, be aggressive early. Look to score in the paint. This NC State team will allow you to score in the paint. You just got to be aggressive, get to the foul line. Hopefully Jordan Pope and Tremont Mark show up, or at least one of them shows up. Because in games where neither of them has shown up, it's been trouble for Texas. But I think Texas has a pretty decent chance of winning this game. I think it's pretty much a coin flip. You could go either way. Those are the keys to add on to what Emmy said. Emmy, I'll ask you this question to wrap this segment up, and then we'll move on to our bracket breakdown. Do you think Texas right now 18-14, 9-9 in league play, but they lost their last 3 games of the season in ugly fashion, and are kind of limping coming in? Do you think they need to win this game for the first season under Sean Miller to be considered successful? Or are you kind of indifferent?
I'm indifferent, but it is a good matchup. It is a favorable matchup for Texas. So, with that said, I think it depends on how they lose, if they lose, I guess.
Okay.
If they below a lead, for example, that would be I would feel disappointed by that. Not gonna lie. Now, if it's just they just get shot out of the gym by NC State, I can excuse that because teams have a hot night here or there, especially a team an offensive team as good as NC State. So I can let that go. This Texas team is not that good of a defensive team. So if they just get shot out of the gym, it is what it is. We'll move on to next year with a better team. So it depends how they lose, but I'm 75-25 indifferent.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I will say a win would solidify this season being a smashing success in Sean Miller's first season with a very imperfect team. I think it does depend on how they lose. If they get dominated and blown out, that will leave a very sour taste in Longhorns fans' mouths, plural. It would be a really sour finish to the season. But I don't think a blowout is happening here on either side. I actually think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. It's just going to be that one team who executes late and maybe goes on a little bit of a run, in the second half at some point. Don't be surprised if this game's tied at halftime or something like that. But regardless, it should be a very entertaining up-down first 4 matchup if you're into that sort of thing. So if you're free tomorrow night and you're interested, watch this game. And for those who haven't looked at a bracket yet or just don't know where the winner of this game will play, they will play Thursday night around 9 p.m. against AJ DeBonsta in BYU in the West region of the bracket, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and get into our bracket breakdown, as that was our first 4 preview. We're going to go region by region here. Again, we have some questions that we're going to go through for each region, and then we'll tell you who we're going to pick, obviously, to make it out of each region. Emmy, let's start in the East. This is at the top left of your bracket if you're looking at on paper or obviously on a laptop screen or computer screen. This region is loaded, especially if you like coaches. You've got Duke and John Shire as the 1 seed. You've got UConn and Dan Hurley, 2-time champs, as the 2 seed. You've got Tom Izzo and Michigan State looking to try to win a national championship for the Big Ten for the first time since 2000, the year I was born. And you've got 4 seed Kansas and Bill Self, obviously a legendary coach. And I mean, when you're 5 seed is freaking Rick Pitino and St. John's, I mean, that's like the coach. I call this the coaches region. There are so many legendary coaches kind of that ended up all in one region. But
I mean, even UCLA too.
Yeah, Mick Cronin. You can go up and down the list here, man. I love Pat Kelsey at Louisville. Like, there are so many good ones. So, First question. And the only rule for this question is you can't pick an 8-9. That's not an upset. Is there a double-digit seed you think is pulling off an upset in this region, and why?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I mean, I look at a program like Northern Iowa. I wouldn't count them out against St. John's. St. John's is so hot that I'm not going to end up picking Northern Iowa. But I like that. Like, if you remember, Texas fans obviously do remember. But
Yep.
Northern Iowa ended up beating Texas on a half-court buzzer beater a few years back too. That's been a program that's been consistently in March Madness and playing close games in March for a while now. So that one catches my eye a little bit. The other one is South Florida.
Yep.
No particular reason, just I don't know, gut feel on that one. And then I also just was like, I'll pick a random one, and I picked Cal Baptist to upset Kansas too.
The one I'm definitely picking is South Florida over Louisville.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I was right.
A couple of reasons why. Number one, I just think, well, first of all, I love the story of this South Florida team. If you're unfamiliar, and to be clear, like, I didn't follow South Florida throughout the season. I'm not that big of a college basketball geek. I don't have time to watch American Conference basketball. But I do watch a lot of Champ Week and the mid-major tournaments, since most of these mid-major leagues are one-bid leagues. Those tournaments are so fun to watch because you kind of get a feel for who could be Cinderella. Going like the week before the tournament, you get to see how these teams are playing right then and there, and they're fighting for their tournament lives. Like, the winner of those conference tournaments get an automatic bid. The rest go home. Their season's done unless they're playing in the NIT. So those tournaments are always so fun to watch. And I watched some of South Florida in the American Conference tournament, which obviously they won. Brian Hodgson is their coach. You'll learn about him if you watch this game. But they've been super hot since the beginning of February, so they're playing their best basketball. They're one of those defenses that loves to press, get up at, press full court. They force a lot of turnovers. I think they match up really well with Louisville because of their size on the interior. Isaiah Nelson is the best player. He's the player to watch for them. He is a 6'10" big man who was the American Conference Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. Very good player here. One of the best players in the mid-majors this year. He's a menace on the offensive glass. He loves to work down low. Averaged a team high 16.7 points per game. They have some really good guards, but Louisville, they've got good guards, and if they're making threes, they're going to be a tough out. I just think South Florida has the defense to match up with Louisville and take them out of their game. and they have the size on the interior. Louisville's very small on the interior, similarly to how NC State is constructed in a way. And I think South Florida will be able to take advantage of that. Plus, they're hot. I haven't loved the way Louisville has played down the stretch. They would be my upset in this region. I don't actually hate your Cal Baptist pick. I don't know a lot about them, though. I'd probably take Darren Peterson and the Jayhawks to survive that one at least, but wouldn't be a terrible pick. I don't think Northern Iowa is going to beat St. John's, but you never know. The one that I would be interested in, especially if you don't want to pick South Florida, you're looking for another upset, is UCF over UCLA. Those 7-10 matchups are always fun, and the health of UCLA's best players are kind of in question with Tyler Bilodeau and Donovan Dent. They've been hurt, and they're trying to work themselves back from injury. So I'd be I like the way UCLA is playing lately. I don't know a whole ton about UCF, but that could be an interesting one. But the one I'm definitely picking is the South Florida Bulls to upset Louisville. Emmy, when you look at this region, top to bottom, is there a player, NBA draft prospect, or game, whether it be in the first round or later on, that you're most excited to watch?
Ooh, from this region, it's got to be. I mean, I've got Duke and Michigan State playing in the Elite Eight. That would be incredible to watch. In terms of second round games, I'd be interested to see the matchup of UCLA and UConn if that happens. Because if UCLA wins that game, they'll most likely have their guys back if not already by that point, hopefully. And UConn, they're in my opinion, I don't think they're quite as good as in the years they won the national title. They're not quite as dominant, but they're still really good. Obviously, I just think they're in a March setting. They're certainly more beatable than they were even a couple of years ago. So,
no doubt. This region has two of the top 3 picks in this upcoming NBA draft, with Cameron Boozer at Duke and Darren Peterson at Kansas. So obviously, like, if those two teams matched up in the Sweet 16, to see the matchup of those two prospects, that would be super fun if they're both healthy. One guy I'm pretty interested in, even though UConn's kind of been up and down as of late, is Braylon Mullins, who is a projected lottery pick. He's a 6'6" freshman who's shooting 34.5% on high volume threes this season, 14.2 attempts per 100 possessions.
wow.
He can really heat up. He's a really good free throw shooter. He's got NBA range, really knows how to move without the ball. They're going to need him to play well, and I'm interested to see how he plays in this tournament and whether or not he'll be able to maybe raise his draft stock even more coming in.
Like his game is made for March.
Yeah. And what separates him from a lot of other like snipers that you see nowadays is he's actually really good defensively. 2.3% steal percentage, a 3.0 block percentage. He's really smart, so he gets in passing lanes. He's a pretty solid defensive player as well. He's got good size. So I'm interested. He's kind of like an under the radar, like NBA draft guy, especially since my Spurs might be in that range and they need some shooting that I'm interested in watching. But yeah, I could go on about some of the other prospects, but we gotta pick it up here. Let's just, for this region, since it's so deep, you mentioned you had Duke and Michigan State. in the Elite Eight. I'm actually going to pick the same thing. Who do you got coming out of this region? Duke or Michigan State?
I've got Duke coming out. I think Cam Boozer. I think that team, like they're legit. I think they're the favorite.
I would agree. They're just so good, and the thing that doesn't get talked about enough with Duke is their defense. They're super long on the perimeter with Dame Sarr and Isaiah Evans. Now, one thing with Duke to watch out for is, number one, I do think St. John's, because of their size with Zuby Ejiofor and their length on the perimeter, could give them some trouble in the Sweet 16. I don't think that would be an easy game for Duke if St. John's were to get to that point. My opinion, I'd much rather see Kansas. Just think they're a better matchup for Duke. But I do think Duke will get past that. They are missing Caleb Foster and Patrick Ngungba, two starters, who are down with injury right now. Depending on how far they go will determine when they get those guys back. I do think we could see Ngungba, the big guy, their center, back if they get to the second round, potentially this weekend. But Foster, their point guard, he's probably not going to be back unless they make a really deep run to like the Elite Eight or the Final Four. But I still have Duke. They're so deep. Cam Boozer is unstoppable, and I think they'll make it out. Let's move on to the next region. We're moving down the bracket, Emmy. So we're going to the South region on the bottom left side of the bracket. This is where, let me bring it up on the screen here if I can. This is where Florida is the 1 seed. Todd Golden, the defending champs, they do get a 1 seed, winning the SEC regular season title. You've got Houston, the 2 seed. And what's interesting about that is you could see a rematch of last year's national championship game in the Elite Eight, potentially, in this region. And interestingly enough, this regional final will be played in Houston. So if Florida were to make it, to the regional final against Houston, they would actually technically be playing a road game, which is kind of weird. But that's how it works out. And then you have, let's see, who's the 3? Illinois, a very solid Illinois team. And then you have Nebraska as the 4. Fun fact about Nebraska, people, they're the only Power 4 program to never win an NCAA tournament game. They've had a great year under Fred Hoiberg, but they're looking to win their first NCAA tournament game. They have a tough matchup with a good Troy team in the first round. Is there an upset that you're looking for in this region, Emmy?
I'm looking at McNeese over Vanderbilt for my upset. And then I'm going to say A&M, as much as I hate that, over St. Mary's. And then, you know what? Fuck it. Penn over Illinois. Let's go.
Those Ivy League teams are no joke, man. They're well coached. TJ Power is at Penn. He's a former 5-star prospect who committed to Duke. Then he transferred to Virginia last year, had a very down year. But in yesterday's Ivy League championship against Yale, he went for 44 and 14. 44 points and 14 rebounds. He is playing very well right now. So they could be dangerous. They're very well coached. The one I'm looking at in this region is VCU, the Rams, to upset North Carolina in that 11-6 game. Couple reasons why. Number one, in case you missed it, no Caleb Wilson for North Carolina. He's out with a what was it? What was the injury he's out with? A broken wrist, I believe. He's out for the season. He's preparing for the draft and recovering from his injury. So they don't have their best player. That's pretty fucking important. And then number two, like I just really like this VCU team. 27-7. Phil Martelli, very good coach. They're playing really well right now. They just won their conference tournament. 44% of their shots from three. They make an outstanding 37% from three. They're a very good shooting team. North Carolina, not so much. I just really like VCU, how they're playing right now. And the main reason I'm not so high on North Carolina is because they don't have Caleb Wilson, who is most of their offense. We'll see if I'm wrong there, but that would be the upset I'm definitely picking in this region. I do think Nebraska will get their first tournament win. I think they'll sneak past Troy. If I was gonna pick another upset in this region, it'd probably be A&M over St. Mary's. I don't know that I even consider that much of an upset.
Okay.
But that will be a very interesting game. Like St. Mary's and Texas A&M are like on the polar opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to style of play. A&M wants to run. They play at one of the quickest paces in the country. St. Mary's, think Tony Bennett, Virginia. That's how they want to play. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting game. Is there a game or a player or a matchup that you're most excited to watch in this region?
Yeah. How about Houston's entire run from second round onward? They either play St. Mary's or A&M. Interesting game there, either way. And then they'll most likely be playing either Illinois or North Carolina in the Sweet 16. And then, of course, in the Elite Eight, I have them playing Florida. So they have a tough road. They got a tough draw, in my opinion. But I do think they'll still make it to the Elite Eight, where I ultimately have them losing.
I've got a couple players for you. Number one, if you like guards, Vanderbilt's Tyler Tanner, their point guard, has put together one of the most exciting breakout seasons in the country. By the way, Vanderbilt, if you combine football wins from this past season and basketball wins from this season, they are number one in the SEC over everyone else. They're having the best athletic season in the SEC, and their baseball team's really good too. So very impressed with what Vanderbilt has done in that athletic department. But anyway, Tyler Tanner, he is borderline first round, second round if you look at draft boards right now. But I think he's going to be facing like one of the more interesting stay or go decisions at the end of this season, like whether or not he wants to actually go to the draft or stay for another year. The knock on him is he's pretty fucking small. 6 foot, 175 pounds. He's very tiny by NBA standards. But his game, he does not play like a guy who's 6 foot, 175 pounds. He's not very good defensively. And it's not because he doesn't, put effort in on that end of the floor. He's just, there's limitations to how good he can be with his length and his size. But he's a great mover. He's got ridiculous speed and burst. Puts in a ton of effort. He's a really good shooter. He's got unlimited range. If he heats up, Vanderbilt could be tough to stop. But if you can take him out of his game, there could be an upset in the first round. Vanderbilt's just kind of that kind of team. They could make a run to the Elite Eight. They're that good when Tyler Tanner is on, but they could also end up losing to McNeese. They're kind of one of those wide variance teams in this tournament.
Yeah. And they could completely fuck my bracket too. They probably will.
So he would be one guy to keep an eye on, like if you're going to be watching that game because you think McNeese is one of your upset picks. watch Tyler Tanner. I think he will impress you. And then anyone else? Of course, Florida's got some
You say his
big.
last name was? You said Tyler Canner?
Tanner, T with a
Tanner.
T.
Okay.
Tyler
Gotcha.
Tanner.
Oh, keep an eye out for him.
Keep an eye on him. He's not hard to spot. He's their point guard. I would have said Caleb Wilson. I just love Caleb Wilson, but he's unfortunately not going to be playing in this tournament for the Tar Heels. So if you're watching that Illinois Penn game, keep an eye on Keaton Wagler for Illinois. Out of nowhere success story this year for the Illini. 6'6" freshman, just an absolute maestro on the offensive end.
Future Maverick.
Potentially, yeah, top 10 pick here. He's not your traditional story. He's not a 5-star coming out of high school like Cam Boozer and Darren Peterson and some of these other guys that you look at, AJ DeBlansta. He's not one of those guys coming out of high school. He doesn't necessarily have that pedigree, but man, he's an absolute specialist, can score from all three levels, 40% on 10.3 attempts per 100 possessions from three. You know how hard that is to do in college? He can score at every level, just really good, takes care of the ball. He's had games this season where he scored close to 50. He can go off at any time. So keep an eye on Keaton Wagler for Illinois. He could lead this Illinois team single-handedly to the Final Four. He's that good.
Absolutely.
But let's go ahead and make our picks for the region. Emmy, who you got?
Yeah, I've got Florida winning the region. My Elite Eight matchup ended up being pretty chalky, Florida versus Houston, but I had some pretty significant upsets along the way. I had McNeese making it to the Sweet 16, beating Nebraska in the second round, and then I had Penn, of course, beating Illinois. Which, you know what, I'm kind of having second thoughts about that because Wagner is actually he's a guy that I've actually read up on a little bit for my Mavericks. Or I don't know how to feel about the Mavericks right now, but but regardless, I've read up on him a little bit, and he's a guy that I like a lot. He's an absolute bucket. So I might rethink that one by the time the games start.
Yeah. I do think similarly to last year, it's going to be a pretty chalky Final Four, which is good for, I think, like the level of basketball that we're going to see later on in the tournament. Once we get past the first round, I do think it's going to be a pretty chalky tournament. So if you don't necessarily like that, it might not be for you. But I do think we're going to see some upsets in the first round. I have the same Elite Eight matchup, although I was very close to picking Illinois to beat Houston in the Sweet 16. That would be a very interesting matchup between two lottery guards and Keaton Wagler and Kingston Flemings. But I've always had so much respect for Kelvin Sampson and what they do, how they run that program, how good they are defensively, how tough they are. That championship DNA is still there. They fell just short last season in what was a very close national championship game against Florida. And they're going to technically be playing the home game if they make the regional final against the Gators. I like Houston as a 2 seed to get back to the Final Four. I reserve the right to change my mind on that, but that's what I'm going with right now. So
Okay.
we will move on. Let's go to the top right of the bracket. We're moving to the other side. This is Texas's region. Well, it's actually Arizona's region. This is the West region. Again, top right of your bracket. Arizona and Tommy Lloyd, the 1 seed, one of the best teams, if not the best team in college basketball. Great season out of the Big 12 tournament champions. The 2 seed Purdue, kind of an up and down season for Purdue, but they end up the 2 seed once again. They win the Big 10 tournament. They beat Michigan. They're hot coming in. They have tons of tournament experience on that team, which does matter. I've seen people picking them to make the Final Four again. Wouldn't totally surprise me. As the 3, you've got Gonzaga and Mark Few. They're back and very good once again. And then you have Arkansas and Darius Acuff. Holy shit, that guy is good. I would not want to play Arkansas and John Calipari right now.
Absolutely not.
So, yeah, this is a very good region. I'm really excited for this region. Is there an upset, Emmy, that you're looking at in this region?
I have one upset in this region in the first round.
Okay.
And I went with Missouri over Miami. I think the first round is going to be pretty chalky. But in the second round, remember that segment we did on the Mountain West a couple years ago?
Yep.
So I've gone full Mountain West fanboy here, and I picked Utah State to upset Arizona in the second round for no particular reason other than we did a segment on the Mountain West 2 years ago.
Interesting. I mean, shit, it could happen. I wouldn't pick it, but credit to you for picking it. That is something else, but I like it. I'm not going to argue with it. The upset I'd be looking at here, I think Arkansas's they're going to beat the fuck out of Hawaii. Sorry, Hawaii, but you're going to get your shit beat in by Darius Acuff whenever that game is. A popular upset pick here is High Point over Wisconsin.
I also picked High Point. I forgot about them.
I'm going back and forth on that, but I think overall the upset I'm definitely picking is Missouri over Miami. And honestly, for no other reason than that game is like, I think it's in St. Louis, which is like pretty close to Missouri.
Yeah.
Pretty much a home game for them. So, yeah, Miami's struggled down the stretch. I really respect the job that Jay Lucas has done in his first year there. They had a very good year, finished third in the ACC. Yeah, I'd probably take Missouri there. I do think because BYU is missing their point guard and Richie Saunders, a big part of their offense, the winner of Texas and NC State could potentially give the BYU a little bit of trouble. And every once in a while, we see a team from the first 4 make a run to like the second round or even the second weekend of the tournament. Yeah. If there's going to be a team from the first 4 this year that is going to do that, just because of the way Texas and NC State can match up with BYU, it could be one of those 2 teams, the winner of that game tomorrow. I'm not going to pick it, but it could definitely happen. I've already picked enough 11 seeds, so I'm not going to pick that one. But just for those of you out there who might be looking for like a first 4 team to make a run, that could be it. But yeah, Missouri would probably be the one I'm definitely picking. I'll think about High Point. That's an interesting one. They're very well coached. Is there a player or a matchup that you're looking to watch here? Because I'll tell you what mine is. It's pretty obvious.
BYU versus Gonzaga in the second round. That one's going to be real interesting if it happens. I've also got Gonzaga playing Purdue in the Sweet 16. And then my Elite 8 matchup, I think, is very interesting. I've got Purdue playing Arkansas and beating Arkansas in the Elite 8.
Interesting. This could be the most exciting game of the tournament if it happens, and that is Arizona against Arkansas. I know you have Arizona losing.
Arkansas versus Utah State.
And look, heck, especially this year, if I get burned again by Arizona, I might burn down that entire campus because I've gotten burned so many times by Arizona, but
Let's go to Tucson, man. I'm down.
I do think this is by far their best team. Because in past years they've had like a bunch of volatility with like Caleb Love and all these guards who are on and off. I just don't think that's this team. I think they're more upset proof in this tournament, or this year, I should say. I do have them making the Elite Eight, although that Arkansas Arizona game on one side, you've got Darius Acuff, who literally just put up 30 and 10 in the SEC tournament and is averaging 28 and 11 in his past 10 games. He's a bona fide top 6 pick in the draft. I think he's the best guard in the draft. I think you can make an argument if it weren't for how little this draft class is and a bunch of other classes, he might even be the number 1 or the number 2 pick. He's that good.
How tall is Acuff, by the way?
6'4", 6'5" I think.
Okay, see, so he's got good size. Okay, I thought he was shorter.
Oh yeah, he's definitely he's a beast. And then on the other side, you've got a bunch of dogs with Braden Burries, who's a freshman. You've got Koa Pete on the interior. The separation in that game for me is I just think Arizona is a little better on the interior. And I've always thought like you've got to have some sort of post presence to win in March. You've got to be able to like play inside out at some point in the tournament, and I think Arizona has more of an ability to do that than Arkansas. But yeah, that would be the matchup that I'm hoping to see most as a college basketball fan for both NBA draft and just pure basketball reasons. So you had Purdue beating who?
I have Purdue beating Arkansas in the Elite Eight.
Again, I think it's gonna end up being a pretty chalky tournament, but I respect the game of picking a 1 seed to lose early. It does happen pretty often. I've got Purdue against Arizona, but I've got Arizona coming out of that region. Again, warning to Tucson. If I get burned again, it's not going to be good for you guys.
If I get burned, you get burned.
Exactly. Fucking exactly. Let's move on to the last region. And this has taken a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. We only get to do this once a year.
Yeah, I'm cool with going a little long tonight.
We're moving down to the Midwest, where the Michigan Wolverines, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of your favorite coaches in college basketball, Dusty May, the 1 seed in this region after a fantastic year for Michigan, only losing 3 games the entire year. They were dominant early on. Keep an eye, though, on a familiar 16 seed, UMBC, back in the tournament for the first time since they beat number 1 overall seed Virginia back in 2018.
On the same side of the bracket, by the way, in the same region, by the way.
Exactly.
They beat in the Elite Eight.
My dad and I, him as a huge Virginia fan, me as a still a big Virginia fan, but not as big. My primary rooting interest is now, with the Texas Longhorns. But, my sister went to Virginia, and I'm still a big fan. We were worried that they were going to match up UMBC with Virginia in a 3-14 game. Luckily, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't think UMBC would beat Michigan, but never know. Upset pick in this region, Emmy. Who you got?
Yeah, I've got some chaos in this region, man. I went Santa Clara over Kentucky.
I agree with that.
I went Akron over Texas Tech.
Could happen. I won't pick it, but it definitely could happen.
And then I had I feel dumb saying this out loud. Guess who I had in the Sweet 16? Take a guess.
You have Hofstra?
Nope. Get Georgia.
You got Georgia, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember that random game where they like had like a big upset. I think it was against, was it like Alabama or something?
Yeah.
I just happened to watch that game, and like I was like, dang, this Georgia team looks pretty solid. And like in March Madness, like the thing is like your bracket's gonna get cooked anyway. So like you gotta choose things to latch on to, and I'm choosing to latch on to that. Just like how I'm choosing to latch on to Virginia because I watched them live with you. I picked them to win the region.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Picked them to win the region. I picked them to beat Iowa State in the Sweet 16.
And who do you have them matching up with in the Elite Eight?
I have them matching up with Georgia.
Interesting. Okay. All right. This is an interesting one because, like, if this were football, you'd have Michigan, you'd have Georgia, you'd have Texas Tech, you'd have Alabama, you have Tennessee in there,
Even Virginia almost made the playoff.
even Virginia, like they were in the
Iowa
ACC
State,
championship.
team.
Iowa State is a pesky football program, although they lost their head coach, so maybe not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I respect it. I'm obviously picking more chalk to go deeper, but definitely love the Virginia pick. I do think if Virginia got past Tennessee, they would beat Iowa State, but those are two tough teams to beat.
Absolutely.
I think Kentucky's fucked once again, unfortunately. Santa Clara is a terrible, terrible, terrible matchup for them. Some of these West Coast Conference teams, the St. Mary's of the world, Gonzaga, even Santa Clara, these teams are very good. This was a very good conference this year. And the Broncos from Santa Clara, 26-8 this year. They were 15-3 in conference. Steve Nash went to Santa Clara. He's their most famous alumnus. They are really good three-point shooting team. They're really well coached. And Kentucky's been inconsistent all season. So I would pick that 10-7 upset for sure. I don't think Santa Clara would beat Iowa State, but it's not entirely impossible. I've got Virginia getting to the Elite Eight, but not quite to the Final Four. I think Virginia's going to match up with Michigan in the Final Four. But one upset I do want to mention that I am going to pick is Hofstra over Alabama. The only reason for this, I know nothing about Hofstra other than they won their conference tournament, they're hot coming in, and they have good guard play, which is a prerequisite to like make a deep run in the tournament. But that could obviously be canceled out with Alabama's good guard play. Only reason I'm picking it is this morning it was announced that Alabama's second leading scorer, one of their best guards, Aiden Holloway, was arrested and charged with possession of marijuana. And so he's likely not going to be playing in this tournament while that investigation goes on. So that's the only reason I'm picking Hofstra to beat Alabama is because there are some distractions there. And I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that's not going to go well for a team that's dealing with some off-the-court drama. But yeah, other than that, I have pretty much chalk later on in the region. Michigan with Yaxel Linderberg and Elliot Cadeau, the transfer from North Carolina. They're bigs, Ade Mara. I think they're just going to be too big and dominant on the interior for anyone in this region. But I will say, like, the most interesting game of this entire region, if it happens, could be Virginia against Iowa State. Both of those teams can fucking shoot the ball. We saw it live back in December when the Cavaliers came to Austin. Iowa State's really good. They could make a Final Four run. But I have Michigan edging out Virginia in the Elite Eight. So I've got all chalk pretty much outside of Houston, but even they could be called chalk. I've got 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed. All 1 seeds in the Final Four has only happened twice. It happened last year and it happened back in 2008. So it doesn't happen all that often, but we're seeing more and more later on in the tournament. It's becoming more and more chalky. The top teams are tending to win later on in the tournament. But as long as you pick like 1, 2, or 3 seeds to get to your Elite Eight Final Four, you'll probably end up doing fairly well, because that tends to be the trend here over the last couple of years. But yeah, that's the entire bracket. So we'll wrap things up with our Final Four picks and our national champion. Have you decided on a national champion, Emmy?
Yeah, and real quick, I'll make one adjustment to my what region is that? The one we just did.
The Midwest.
Midwest. Yeah, I'll make one adjustment to my Midwest. I'll choose Hofstra to upset Alabama instead of Texas Tech getting upset, because having Georgia in the Elite Eight feels wrong. So I'm gonna change that to Texas Tech to getting to the Elite Eight, and then Virginia playing Texas Tech, and then beating Tech. So still the same Final Four for me. I have Duke, Florida playing in Indy, and then on the other side I have Purdue and Virginia, with Virginia winning and playing Duke in
oh my god,
all ACC national championship.
Wow, I like it though. I like it. That would be a third matchup between those two teams if it happens. Interesting note about your Elite Eight matchup is Virginia Texas Tech. That would actually be a rematch of the 2019 national championship game that went to overtime. When Virginia won. Obviously, different rosters and different players, but same programs. Okay, for my I'm pretty chalky here. I've got Duke beating what would be Houston. I think they get their revenge for what happened in last year's Final Four when they blew a double-digit lead late in that game. I've got Duke playing the national championship against, and again, I'm going to burn your campus down if you burn me here, Arizona. I'm picking you to get to the national championship game.
Oh my gosh.
And play the Blue Devils. But I'm picking Duke to beat you in the national championship. I think the Blue Devils and John Shire in his 4th year at Duke cut down the nets.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say is I really like this Florida team, and it took a lot for me to pick against them. I'm probably going to make another bracket that's the exact same bracket, except Florida beats Duke and beats Virginia, because I feel that strongly about that Florida team.
How many I know some people that are freaking insane with this stuff. They fill out like 20 brackets, and I just don't see the point of that. I really don't see the point.
One of them's got to be good, right?
Bro, if you fill out 20 brackets and all of them suck, you should just stop watching sports. Flat out.
Just stop it. Stop it, man. Stop it. Get some help.
I typically limit myself to 2, maybe 3 at the most, because I can't keep up.
I think most I've made in a year is 5, if you count the women's side.
Well, that's like, if you include the women's side, that's pretty normal, I guess.
Yeah, I've made, it was like 4 on the men's, 1 on the women's, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have time to talk about the women, but I'm gonna pick Texas to win it all this year. They've beaten South Carolina. they've proven they can beat South Carolina. It's just a question of whether or not they can beat UConn. And I haven't actually looked too deeply into the women's bracket yet, but I do plan on filling out a women's bracket. Respect the women's game. That tournament's always chalky, but there is some good basketball on the women's side.
Absolutely, yeah. And once it gets to the Sweet 16 and onward, like, dude, like those games get good, like genuinely good basketball, like high level shot making, and like if you like basketball, you enjoy that, like genuinely.
Yeah, and I do kind of like how they play. Like the top seeds get to play their first and second round games on their home floor. I think that's pretty cool.
I like that too.
But yeah, I'd pick Texas to win it all. I think they're going to break through this year, next year. They're probably the next program on campus, since this is deep in the heart of Longhorn sports, to lift a trophy. The last being softball, obviously last year. Do we have time for baseball, or do we just want to end it here?
I think we can probably just end it. We can give our 2 cents on it real quick. I'm cool with that.
All right.
I'll go first, man. I mean, the whole discussion is like, is this it for him in terms of trying to do both sports? That's the whole premise of this conversation, guys. If you don't know Jonah Williams, which if you're listening to this and you don't know Jonah Williams, that's a little bit surprising. But nevertheless, if you don't know Jonah Williams, he's a 5-star football player and baseball player that Texas has on both their football team and baseball team. Has played some on the football side, but has played significant has had a significant role on the baseball side of things. Is a very athletic outfielder, really good defensive player. Just got injured. Was it over the weekend, right?
It was not this weekend. He didn't actually play this weekend, but last weekend.
Last weekend. He got injured last weekend. His season is done. So the discussion here is, should he choose one sport? And if so, which? So just to give my 2 cents on it, honestly, man, like, I think he's a baseball player. But like, and here's the thing too, I think ultimately for him to reach his potential as a football player, I think he might have to transfer, because he's spending so much time on the baseball side of things that I don't know if he will win the starting job in this crowded safety room. I could be wrong on that, because he's so talented, so physically talented. But in order to play the safety position, especially in the SEC, you have to be so in tune with route concepts, formations, being able to communicate with your teammates in the back end in very hectic situations, in split second decisions where a hesitation will be the difference in you giving up a 70-yard touchdown and forcing an incompletion. Like that's how it is at the safety position in the SEC, man. And it's tough for me to say like he should choose baseball, but I think that's kind of where I'm at. Ultimately, it's like I think he'll do well with whichever one he chooses. I don't know if on the football side of things, I mean, if he were to commit to one right now and choose football, then maybe he could win the starting job for next year. Maybe. But that's a stretch given this injury.
Well, here's what I'll say. And I don't necessarily I wouldn't push back on anything you said, because all options are on the table at this point.
Yeah.
A couple points I'll make, and then we'll wrap things up, because I know we've gone over time. Number one, the number one priority here for Texas, both programs, the coaching staffs of both programs, Jonah Williams, his agent, and then the coaching staffs of both the football team, Steve Sarkisian, and the baseball team and Jim Schlossnagle. The number one priority in all of this is, in order for Jonah Williams to be effective at either of these sports with how talented he is, he's got to get his body right. And ever since his senior year of high school, his body just hasn't been right, because I think as honorable and as impressive as it is to play both sports at the University of Texas, and as talented as he is in both sports, I mean, he's so talented that he could be a first-round draft pick in both.
Yeah.
If he lived up to his full potential. He can't be that player. He can't reach his full potential if he's constantly dealing with these kinds of injuries. And ever since he got to Texas, since he broke his collarbone his senior year of high school, he's been dealing with these nagging injuries, because he gets on campus last January as a freshman and goes right into baseball camp. They start their season in February. He finishes the season. He goes right into summer workouts for football. He goes right into fall practice. He has a hamstring injury. He's dealing with that basically the entire season. He re-aggravates it. And now he's back in baseball. Had like a week off, if that, before he had to get back into baseball. And now he's re-aggravated a shoulder injury that's been bugging him. So he just hasn't had the necessary time off to – he's overexerting himself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he hasn't had like a full offseason or really anything to really recover and get his body right. And in order for him to be a future MLB All-Star or a future first-round pick in the MLB draft, potentially next year in 2027, or a future first or second day draft pick in the NFL, he's got to be healthy. And so the number one priority, I think, if you asked everyone, the baseball coaching staff, the football coaching staff, his camp, Jonah Williams, is he's got to get his body right. So what I think is going to happen here is he's going to get this surgery as soon as he can to speed up the timeline for recovery. I don't know what the exact injury is, but he needs to get it as soon as possible so he can start recovering. No activity till like minimum the summer. Just rehab. Get your body healthy. Maybe don't even participate in summer workouts if you're not fully 1,000% healthy. Try to get your body right for fall camp, which is in August. Late July, August, try to be healthy by then, and then see how the football season goes. If he's hurt again in football season, or maybe he's not quite on the too deep, or whatever may happen, and it doesn't go quite as he wants, maybe he chooses baseball after next season full time. If he has a really great football season and he's potentially a starting safety, maybe he lives up to the hype that we're all waiting for him to live up to. Maybe he ultimately chooses football. I'm not necessarily going to pick a direction for him right now. My entire point is he's got to get healthy, try to have the best football season he can. That should be his goal. And then after the football season is when I think a decision on which way he's going to go going into his junior year, that's when a decision I think is going to be made on what sport he is going to play full time. Because I just don't think it's, as much as he probably wants to, his camp and the people close to him are probably telling him this isn't as good of an attempt as you made. This just isn't right for your body. Your body just can't handle this.
Yeah, and it has to be mentally draining as well.
Exactly.
Like I can't imagine having that little amount of physical rest while being a full-time student, mind you. Like that is insane. I don't know what his major is, but I've heard he's a very good student as well. Like I don't know how this dude has the time. Like,
and here's why I would choose And look, maybe my opinion changes in the fall and we see him play safety and we're like, holy shit, this is the next Caleb Downs. And we're like, holy fuck.
Yeah, maybe.
You got to play football. Maybe that happens, but I don't know at this point if that's really in the cards. Not anything against Jonah. It's just we haven't seen any evidence to suggest he's going to turn into that kind of player. The reason I would pick baseball for him is just because I think it's less taxing on the body. Quite simply, just that. Physically, it's just a less taxing sport than football is. It's
Plain and simple. Yeah. And I think what he brings to the game athletically in baseball is more valuable to a baseball team than the safety position is in football.
Exactly. And
so,
there might, well, I know this for a fact. Short term, there's more money in football because football will pay him more NIL than baseball will, because they have more money to spend. You can make more money if you choose football full time in college than you can in baseball, and immediately after getting drafted, like your rookie deal is much better in football than it would be in baseball. Even as like a third day pick, you're going to make a lot more money in the NFL your first couple of years, like as an NFL drafted player on a rookie deal, than you would in the minor leagues. But long term, if you can, and his talent, this is possible if he can get his body right. As a center fielder, if you turn into a star center fielder in the majors, that's 300, 400, 500 million dollars right there. They will pay you a load of money if you're
a star center fielder who can hit 280 and steal 40 bases. Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah. You're just flat out making a lot more money in the long term.
Yeah.
If you can reach that kind of level in baseball than you are as a safety in football. Now, if this was a quarterback or if this was a receiver, it might be a little bit different of a conversation. But still, it's like, but the problem with saying all that is like, it's really hard to get up through the major leagues and make that bet on yourself and then become that level of player in the majors. It's not easy to do. If it was, everybody would do it. It's not easy to become Aaron Judge. It's not easy to become, one of these star center fielders that steals a lot of bases. Like, it's just not that easy. So it might be, the safer bet might be football, because you might be able to, you won't have to get through the minor leagues. You won't have to, if he's healthy, he's talented enough to make a roster. He could potentially get a second deal if he plays well enough. And like, it might be more steady money right away.
Yeah. Like he could step onto an NFL roster today and play special teams.
Yeah. But if he really wants to bet on himself and he thinks he's that motherfucker in baseball, you can make a shit ton of money. I mean,
yeah, man.
So yeah, that's kind of the whole conversation there. There are Texas fans who are on social media and on message boards that have spewed a bunch of bullshit about how he's a bust. He's not going to turn out. This is it for him. He needs to transfer, blah, blah, blah. I pay no mind to those people. Just shut up. Stop talking about it.
He's good, man. Like I don't understand that.
Like, this is a kid who played in the SEC last year, faced SEC pitching and hit 320. Like, I refuse to believe that he can't do it at the highest level. He should have been in his senior season of baseball at Galveston Ball, and he was hitting over 300 in SEC play against pitchers who will pitch in the majors.
Yeah,
I
flat
just
out.
I just refuse to believe that he can't be the player that we all think he could be, as we all thought and still think he could be in either sport when he was coming out of high school. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. We went way over, but it is what it is. But we're going to get out of here for tonight. Emmy, thank you so much for joining. This was really fun.
For sure.
I really enjoyed this. We covered a lot of ground. Hoping to see the Longhorns win tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. If they do win, there's a chance I could do like a little post game live. But we'll see what happens. It is a late game, so that might not happen. But we'll see. Depends what mood I'm in. But yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this live or watching this before the tournament, make sure you put in the comments who you're picking for your Final Four if you are filling out a bracket, men's or women's. I'd like to hear both, honestly. And then how do you think Texas is going to do? And what do you think Jonah Williams? What do you think his future holds? But yeah, that was kind of the big news of the day. I will be back likely next week to talk more baseball, to talk more NCAA tournament. And hopefully Emmy will be back maybe sometime in April, would you say, for maybe like some NFL draft content or
Masters preview.
Masters preview. We love doing that every year. We'll see.
Cam Young just won the Players. That was a good tournament.
The week of the Final Four / Masters, that could be a good week. You might see Emmy around then, or maybe like middle of April when we get to like, big time NFL draft, NBA playoff time period. You could see him back on. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Hook 'em and peace out.
Peace.